AITA for letting my brother face the law after what he did to my girlfriend? It all started the moment Sophia, my 25-year-old girlfriend, walked through my parents' front door. My brother, Caleb, immediately began acting inappropriately, making Sophia extremely uncomfortable with his completely out-of-line behavior. He literally pushed our mother aside to be the first to hug Sophia, holding her for far too long until she had to physically pull away. During dinner, he constantly found excuses to touch her arm or shoulder, told so-called inside jokes, even though they had just met, and nudged me out of the way several times to sit next to her. He finally crossed a major line by trying to feed her a piece of his steak with his own fork while staring at her intensely. Sophia was visibly uncomfortable but remained polite because it was our first family meeting and she wanted to make a good impression. Throughout the meal, Caleb kept telling embarrassing stories about me, twisting them to make me look like a pathetic loser. He even invented a story about how he supposedly saved my high school ex-girlfriend from my so-called emotional issues, which is a complete fabrication. Sophia knew these stories were fake because I had already told her about my teenage years, but my parents nodded along as if Caleb was speaking the absolute truth. After dinner, things got worse. Sophia, wanting to be helpful, offered to help clear the table. I was in the garage helping my dad move some storage boxes when I realized I had not seen her for a while. I found her in the kitchen, where Caleb was literally blocking her path to the door. He had her cornered by the sink and was telling her she deserved someone more exciting than his boring and unstable older brother. He was standing way too close to her, his hand resting on the counter next to her hip. Sophia had already asked him to back up twice before I walked in. When she saw me, she looked incredibly relieved and immediately came to stand by my side. Caleb just burst out laughing as if it were all a joke, but I could feel that Sophia was trembling. Sophia and I have been together for 8 months, and everything was perfect until Caleb decided to disrupt our lives with his obsessive behavior. I guess I need to provide some family background for this to make sense. Caleb and I grew up in a wealthy family in an affluent suburb of Minneapolis. Both our parents work in high-end real estate and make a very good living, but they have always been more concerned with appearances than with genuine family connection. Caleb was born 3 years after me, and from the moment he arrived, he became the center of our parents' universe. Nothing he did was ever wrong, and somehow, everything was always my fault. Growing up, Caleb displayed some truly disturbing behaviors that my parents completely ignored. At 6 years old, he deliberately smashed my Nintendo because I would not let him play when he wanted. Instead of punishing him, my parents bought him his own and told me I should have learned to share. At 12, he killed my pet hamster by feeding it chocolate, knowing full well it was toxic. My parents dismissed it as an accident and said I should not have pets if I was not able to take proper care of them. In high school, he spread rumors that I was cheating on my girlfriend at the time, which led to our breakup. My parents said he was just being protective of her. This pattern continued into adulthood. Caleb still lives with our parents, works a cushy job at my dad's real estate agency, and pretty much does whatever he wants. He has systematically sabotaged all of my romantic relationships. With my last girlfriend before Sophia, he convinced her family that I had a serious gambling problem, which was a complete lie. Before that, he told another girlfriend that I had been unfaithful to all my exes. Another lie. Every single time, my parents defended his actions or accused me of exaggerating. When I met Sophia, I decided to do things differently. I kept our relationship a secret from my family for the first 3 months to protect her from Caleb's usual tactics. Sophia is truly the best thing that has ever happened to me. She is brilliant, compassionate, and works as a pediatric nurse at the local children's hospital. We met in the hospital cafeteria while I was visiting a coworker who had just had surgery. She was on her lunch break, and we started chatting about the terrible hospital coffee. After a few coffee dates, we started going out, and everything just clicked. I told her everything about my family because I wanted her to be prepared. She was actually the one who encouraged me to introduce her to them, thinking that maybe now that we were adults, things would be different. She always tries to see the best in people. It is one of the things I love most about her. I finally agreed to bring her to a family dinner last month, and that is when everything started to unravel. The real nightmare began a few days after that dinner. Sophia started receiving strange calls and messages from unknown numbers. At first, it was just heavy breathing on the line or immediate hang-ups. Then the voicemails became increasingly sinister, with distorted voices insulting her and calling her names for rejecting a better option. Some messages mentioned very specific details about her work schedule and what she was wearing that day, proving that someone was watching her. Sophia did not make the connection right away, but I recognized some of the voices as those of Caleb's old high school friends, a group of guys who have always hung around him because our parents funnel money to them through him. When Sophia blocked their numbers, new ones started calling. Then, these guys started showing up at the hospital, pretending to be visitors and roaming the pediatric wing. They would stare at her for hours, making comments just loud enough for her to hear. Last week, one of them followed her to her car in the parking garage after her night shift. She was terrified. She called me in tears from her car, too scared to drive home for fear of being followed. I had to drive to the hospital to get her and drive her car back, while a friend followed us in my car to make sure we were not being tailed. Sophia started having panic attacks before her shifts, and her coworkers noticed something was seriously wrong. Yesterday, I finally had enough evidence to confront Caleb directly. I had voice recordings, screenshots of the messages, and security camera footage from the hospital showing his friends stalking Sophia. I went to our parents' house, where Caleb still lives, and showed him everything. He just looked at me with a smirk, then looked me dead in the eyes, and said he had no idea what I was talking about. Then he added that if Sophia was not such a pretentious woman, people would not feel the need to teach her a lesson. Something snapped in me at that moment, and I punched him in the face. He started screaming like I had tried to murder him, even though he only had a slight bloody nose. Our parents came running, and of course, they completely freaked out at me, not Caleb. They did not even look at the evidence I was trying to show them. My mom was hysterical about her baby being assaulted, while my dad yelled that I have always been jealous of Caleb and that I need psychological help to manage my anger. When I tried to explain what Sophia was going through, my mother had the nerve to say that Sophia must have led Caleb on during dinner and was now playing the victim because she got caught flirting. My dad ordered me to leave his house and not come back until I had apologized to Caleb and come to my senses. I am writing this from Sophia's apartment, where I have been staying since last night. She just fell asleep in the other room after crying for hours, terrified of going to work tomorrow. Her supervisor has been understanding so far, but Sophia is afraid of losing her job if the situation continues to escalate. She loves working with the kids in the pediatric ward, and she should not have to give that up because of my disturbed brother. I do not know what to do anymore. Every time I think Caleb cannot sink any lower, he proves me wrong. Our parents continue to enable his behavior and make Sophia and me out to be the troublemakers. The police said they cannot intervene without more concrete evidence directly linking Caleb to the harassment. Sophia is living in fear, her job is in jeopardy, and my family is acting like we are the guilty ones. Has anyone ever experienced this kind of situation? How can I protect Sophia while dealing with my toxic family? Should I do even more to document what is happening? Any advice would be welcome because I am at my wit's end. Update 1. First of all, I want to thank everyone who commented on my initial post. Reading your responses helped me realize the true gravity of the situation, and Sophia and I tried to follow the advice many of you gave, especially about documenting everything and taking legal action. Unfortunately, things have gotten much worse over the last 2 weeks, and I need to share what happened. We followed your advice and went to the police. Sophia and I spent hours gathering evidence, screenshots of threatening messages, recordings of the voicemails, and the hospital security footage showing Caleb's friends loitering in the hallways. We also had written statements from 3 of Sophia's co-workers who had witnessed the harassment. The police officer we spoke to seemed concerned at first, particularly about the harassment happening at her workplace, but then things took a turn. It turned out that Tyler, Caleb's best friend and one of the main harassers, is the son of a local police sergeant. When we mentioned Tyler's name, the officer's entire demeanor changed. He started saying that without direct proof that Caleb was orchestrating everything, he could not do much. He even suggested that Sophia might be misinterpreting the friendly attention of guys who were at the hospital for legitimate reasons. He had the nerve to ask if Sophia had somehow encouraged this attention. We asked to speak to another officer, preferably a woman, but they just gave us the runaround. Eventually, They said they would issue a warning to the individuals we could identify on the videos, but that they could not do more without concrete evidence of explicit threats. It felt like a complete waste of time. My parents' reaction was even worse than I had imagined. The day after our visit to the police station, Caleb showed up at their house with a black eye, claiming I had attacked him again. I had not even seen him since the night I punched him 2 weeks prior. But of course, my parents believed him without question. My mom called me, hysterical, saying I was out of control and trying to ruin Caleb's life. She said that going to the police proved I wanted to destroy his future over a stupid misunderstanding. Then my dad called me, furious. He threatened to cut me off financially, which would have been scary if I still depended on them. Fortunately, I have a good job in software development and my own apartment. He also threatened to fire me from the family real estate business, forgetting that I never worked there. That is Caleb's job. It was a stark reminder of how little he sees me as an individual, but only as an extension of Caleb's world. The real disaster happened last weekend. My mom kept calling and texting, saying they wanted to work things out as a family. She swore to me that Caleb regretted everything and wanted to apologize to Sophia and me. She claimed she had a long talk with him about boundaries and that he understood he had been inappropriate. After discussing it with Sophia, we cautiously decided to give them a chance. What a mistake. We arrived at my parents' house for what was supposed to be a reconciliation dinner. As soon as we walked through the door, I knew something was terribly wrong. The house was full of people. My parents, Caleb, our aunt and uncle who always take his side, and worst of all, Tyler and 2 of the other guys who had been harassing Sophia at the hospital. My mom called it a family intervention. For 2 hours, they took turns attacking Sophia's character while Caleb sat there with a smug look on his face. My mom launched into a long monologue about how Sophia was obviously jealous of Caleb's charm and success. What success? I have no idea, and that she had made advances toward him the night of the first dinner. She said Sophia was fabricating the harassment story because she felt guilty for leading him on and wanted to cover her tracks. My aunt insinuated that Sophia was probably used to getting male attention at the hospital and had misinterpreted friendly behavior as something more sinister. Caleb played his part perfectly, claiming he was hurt that Sophia would invent such terrible things about him. He kept repeating how much he had been looking forward to having a sister-in-law and how devastated he was that she was trying to turn me against him. Tyler and his friends backed up his story, swearing they only went to the hospital to visit Tyler's sick grandmother, who apparently changes wards every day. The worst part was when they started questioning Sophia's mental health. They brought up the fact that she sometimes works night shifts, suggesting that sleep deprivation was making her paranoid. They also talked about the stress of working with sick children, insinuating that she was projecting her anxiety onto harmless interactions. My mother even had the audacity to recommend a therapist to help Sophia work on her tendency to create drama. Sophia initially tried to defend herself calmly, re-explaining the harassment and showing the messages and voice recordings again. But they kept cutting her off, dismissing the evidence as misunderstandings or hinting that she had provoked it all. When Tyler started describing, in detail, what Sophia was wearing on certain days at the hospital, proving he had indeed been watching her, my parents reacted as if this was proof that Sophia was seeking attention. It became unbearable when they invited Tyler and his friends to stay for dessert, saying they wanted to show us what nice young men they were. Sophia started having trouble breathing and had to leave the room. When I went to follow her, my mother grabbed my arm and told me it was time to choose between my real family and a clearly unstable girl who was trying to cause trouble. I chose Sophia. We left immediately, and I have not spoken to my family since that night. Caleb's friends have become even bolder, now spreading rumors at Sophia's hospital that she is mentally unstable and has a history of making false accusations. Her supervisor called her into his office yesterday to discuss the workplace tension. Even though he seemed sympathetic, he warned that all this disruption was starting to affect the team and suggested she consider transferring to another department or hospital. We hired a lawyer who is helping us file for restraining orders, but it is a long and expensive process. Sophia has started looking for positions elsewhere, and a former colleague offered to help her land a job at a hospital located about 300 miles away. I hate that it has come to this, but I cannot stand seeing Sophia constantly terrorized and stressed anymore. She cries before every shift, and has lost weight because her anxiety makes it hard to eat. I simply do not know what to do. Every attempt to resolve this situation reasonably has backfired. My family is in total denial. The police are useless, and I feel like Caleb is winning. How can you fight back when everyone is determined to believe the worst about you and the best about your abuser? Update 2. I wish I could say things got better, but everything completely fell apart after what happened at my cousin Megan's wedding last weekend. It took me a few days to process everything before I could write this update. What was supposed to be a joyous family celebration turned into a complete nightmare that ended with Caleb in handcuffs and my family irreparably shattered. A little background first. Megan has always been the only one, along with my grandfather, who saw right through Caleb. When we were kids, she caught him being cruel to her cat and told everyone. But my parents convinced the family she was just lying for attention. She never forgot it, and she has supported me wholeheartedly throughout this entire ordeal with Sophia. She even wrote a very detailed statement for our lawyer regarding Caleb's history of disturbing behavior. When Megan sent us the wedding invitation, Sophia and I hesitated to go. But Megan called us personally and promised she only invited Caleb because her parents forced her to, and she had hired extra security specifically to keep an eye on him. She had also seated us at a table with her husband's family, far away from my parents and Caleb. We thought that with so many witnesses and security present, Caleb would not dare try anything. We were wrong. The ceremony went smoothly, mainly because Caleb was a groomsman. Megan's husband, Miller, is our cousin from the other side of the family and was not aware of the full extent of the tension. At the reception, everything seemed normal at first. Caleb was sitting at the family table with our parents, and we were on the opposite side of the room. For the first time in weeks, Sophia was starting to relax and enjoy herself a little. Around 9 p.m., Sophia went to the restroom. She had been gone for about 10 minutes when I noticed Caleb was no longer at his seat. A sick feeling hit my stomach. I got up to check on her. As I approached the restrooms, I heard Sophia scream. I broke into a run, and that is when Miller and his brother turned the corner ahead of me. They found Caleb pinning Sophia against a wall in the hallway, trying to force himself on her while she struggled. He had one hand over her mouth and was gripping her arms so hard with his other hand that it left deep marks. Miller and his brother forcibly pulled him off Sophia just as I arrived. Sophia was sobbing and shaking uncontrollably. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, and you could already see bruises forming on her arms. Caleb was clearly intoxicated and started yelling that Sophia had been leading him on all night. She had not gone anywhere near him, but he claimed she had followed him, even though she was there first. Miller's brother, who is a police officer in another town, immediately called the local police, while Miller took Sophia into a private room where Megan and her mother tried to comfort her. And then, things got worse, if that is even possible. When the police officers arrived, my parents tried to prevent Caleb's arrest. My mom was screaming that it was all a misunderstanding, that Sophia must have led him on, and that his life should not be ruined over a drunken mistake. My dad even tried to physically block the officers from handcuffing him, yelling that it was a family matter. Caleb swung between sobbing that Sophia had seduced him and making threats against everyone, claiming we had no idea what he was capable of. He looked completely unhinged. When they finally put him in the police car, he started screaming that Sophia was a tramp who had been asking for it since they first met. Several guests filmed his entire meltdown on their phones. The fallout has been horrific. My parents are on a crusade, calling every family member to spin their version of the story. According to them, Sophia lured Caleb into an isolated hallway, tried to seduce him, and then cried assault when he rejected her. They claim she orchestrated the entire thing to get back at Caleb for exposing her lies. They even claim that Miller and his brother assaulted Caleb before the police arrived, which is false, and that Sophia gave herself the bruises. The only good news is that the wedding videographer's footage clearly shows Caleb following Sophia toward the restrooms. Between that, the photos of Sophia's injuries, the numerous witnesses, and the videos of Caleb's unhinged arrest, our lawyer tells us the case against him is rock solid. Several relatives who were at the wedding have given statements to the police about Caleb's behavior that night, including his inappropriate remarks about Sophia and the fact that he was visibly watching her throughout the reception. My parents are now threatening to disown me if Sophia does not drop the charges. They call and text constantly, alternating between guilt-tripping me about destroying the family and threatening to cut me out of the inheritance. They even came to my apartment yesterday and caused such a scene that my neighbors called the police. My mom was sobbing on my doorstep, saying I was sending her baby to prison, while my dad threatened to make sure I never find work in this state again. Sophia and I have made our decision. She accepted the job offer at the hospital 300 miles away, and I have arranged to work remotely full-time with my company. We are moving at the end of next month. Some might think we are running away, but we simply need to escape this toxic environment and start fresh. Megan understands and has promised to keep us updated on any family developments. The hardest part of all this is knowing my family will never admit that Caleb needs serious help. Even after witnessing him commit a serious offense in front of dozens of people, they continue to defend him and blame the victim. I sometimes wonder if things would have been different if someone had intervened when we were kids, but I guess we will never know. For now, I have to focus on one thing: protecting Sophia and building a new life, far away from Caleb and my parents' destructive influence. Update 3. I was not planning on posting another update, but something happened yesterday that I feel compelled to share. After 4 years of blissful silence from my family, I received a hysterical call from my mother that left me both relieved and deeply sad. But first, a quick update on my life with Sophia. We got married 2 years ago in a small ceremony with Megan's family and Sophia's loved ones. We bought a house in our new city, and Sophia is now the head nurse of the pediatric department at her hospital. I still work remotely for the same company and was promoted to senior developer last year. We are expecting our first child, a little girl, in 3 months. Life is peaceful and happy, which makes what I am about to tell you even more unsettling. Yesterday afternoon, I was in a meeting when my phone started blowing up with calls from my mother. I usually ignore unknown numbers, as my family frequently changes phones to try and contact us. But this time, she left a voicemail that sounded truly desperate. When I called back, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. It turns out Caleb got married last year to a woman named Jessica. We knew nothing about it, since we have had absolutely no contact with that side of the family since the wedding incident. Apparently, Caleb met Jessica at church, and their families arranged the marriage very quickly. My mom was rambling on about how perfect everything was, that Caleb had finally found a good Christian woman who understood him, and that they were all so happy, until last week. Last Thursday, a co-worker of Jessica's called the police for a wellness check after Jessica missed 3 days of work. When officers arrived, they found Jessica severely injured. She had 2 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and bruises covering her body. But here is what shocked me the most. While investigating, the police discovered that my dad had been helping Caleb cover up a pattern of abuse for months. Jessica finally broke down and told them everything. Caleb had started hurting her just 2 months after their wedding. Every time she threatened to leave or tell someone, my dad would step in, using his real estate connections to pressure Jessica's family regarding their mortgage or threatening to get her fired from her job at a company owned by one of his business associates. He even convinced Jessica's parents that she was mentally unstable and making everything up, using the exact same tactics they had used against Sophia. The final incident happened when Jessica got a promotion that would have given her financial independence. Caleb completely lost control, and the situation became so severe that she could not go to work. When she called my dad for help, he told her to put some ice on it and remember her wedding vows. That is when her co-worker decided to take action and called the police. Caleb and my dad were both arrested. Caleb for felony domestic violence, and my dad for witness intimidation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. My mother wanted me to come back home to help handle all of this. She kept repeating that family needs to stick together in times of crisis, that Caleb and my dad needed my support, and that Jessica was obviously exaggerating, just like Sophia did. I told her exactly what I thought of her lifelong complicity in Caleb's behavior. I reminded her of what they did to Sophia, how they chose to support Caleb even after seeing what he did with their own eyes at Megan's wedding. I asked her if she ever considered what might have happened if they had gotten Caleb help when he was a child or held him accountable for his actions. Maybe Jessica would not be in the hospital right now. My mother broke down, admitting they had always known Caleb had issues, but thought they were protecting him by covering things up. Too little, too late. I hung up and blocked her new number. Megan called me later to give me more details. Apparently, Jessica's parents are devastated and feel horribly guilty for not believing her sooner. They are fully supporting her in pressing charges against both Caleb and my dad. The police are also investigating other potential victims, and several of Caleb's ex-girlfriends have reportedly come forward with similar stories of concerning behavior and harassment. Sophia suggested we reach out to Jessica through Megan to offer our support if she needs it, which we plan to do. Sophia said she was lucky to have a strong support system when she was dealing with Caleb, and that Jessica might need the same thing. Some people might think I am being harsh on my parents, but I have learned that by tolerating toxic behavior, you just enable the creation of more victims. My family had dozens of chances to change. They did not. Now they have to face the consequences. My priority is protecting my own family, my wife, our unborn daughter, and the peaceful life we have built far away from their toxicity. Update 4. A lot of people have reached out to me for updates regarding Caleb, my dad, and Jessica, so here is what has happened over the past 6 months. First, the good news. Sophia and I welcomed our daughter, Emma, 3 months ago. She is perfectly healthy and the most beautiful baby I have ever seen. Being a parent is an incredible experience, and it has only reinforced my conviction that cutting ties with my toxic family was the best decision I ever made. Megan and her husband came to visit last month to meet Emma, and seeing them with her was a powerful reminder of what true, healthy family love looks like. Now, for the news about Caleb and my dad. Megan continues to keep us in the loop, as she still maintains some contact with the rest of the family. Caleb accepted a plea deal last month. He received an 8-year prison sentence for aggravated domestic battery, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. My dad's case is still ongoing, but his lawyers are reportedly trying to negotiate a deal as well. His real estate license has been suspended pending the investigation's outcome, and most of his business partners and clients have cut ties with him. The most unexpected development came from my mother. According to Megan, she finally started going to therapy after our last phone call. She moved out of the family home and has filed for divorce from my dad. Last week, she sent me a 12-page letter. In it, she apologized for everything, for enabling Caleb his entire life, for failing to protect me as a child, and especially for the way they treated Sophia. She acknowledged that she and my dad had created the person Caleb became by never holding him accountable for his actions. I have not replied to her letter yet. A part of me appreciates that she is finally starting to face reality, but it feels like it is far too late. Where was this remorse when Caleb was showing disturbing signs as a child? When he was harassing Sophia, or when they witnessed his actions at Megan's wedding? Sophia and I have discussed the possibility that someday my mom might have a supervised relationship with Emma, but that would be years down the road, if it ever happens at all. Jessica reached out to us through Megan. She is doing much better. She is living with her sister in another state and is in intensive therapy. She has filed for divorce and is fully cooperating with the prosecutors. According to Megan, several other women have given statements to investigators about Caleb, including 2 from his church. The police are now looking into his past. Jessica's parents are now extremely supportive of her. They publicly apologized to Jessica for not believing her sooner and have cut all contact with my parents. They are even working with domestic violence awareness organizations now to help other families recognize the signs of manipulation and abuse. The extended family is now split into 2 camps. Most of the younger generation and our cousins are on our side and Jessica's, while many of the older relatives continue to make excuses for Caleb and my dad. Megan's mom, my aunt, even started a family therapy group for relatives who want to understand how things escalated so far and how to do better for the next generation. As for us, Sophia and I are focusing on our daughter and our life here. Sophia went back to work part-time last week and was just promoted to director of nursing for the pediatric ward. I am still working remotely, but am considering launching my own IT consulting firm soon. We have built a wonderful community here with good friends and a chosen family. Sometimes, I think about replying to my mother, but then I look at Emma and think about how my parents would have expected me to let Caleb near her if he were still in our lives, claiming he deserved a second chance. That single thought reminds me that we made the right choice by walking away. The cycle of abuse and complicity in my family ends with me. Emma will grow up surrounded by healthy relationships, and people who respect boundaries. Sometimes, cutting ties with a toxic family is the greatest gift you can give your children, even if it hurts. Comment. Reading about this experience really made me reflect on the true meaning of family and the importance of protecting one's peace. We are often taught that blood is thicker than water, but loyalty should never require us to sacrifice our safety or self-respect. Turning a blind eye to toxic behavior does not help anyone grow. It only creates an environment where harmful actions go unchecked. Walking away from people who refuse to respect your boundaries is one of the hardest but most courageous decisions you can make. It takes incredible strength to break cycles of denial and build a life rooted in genuine kindness and mutual respect. True love, whether from a partner or a chosen family, is supposed to make you feel safe and valued. I hope this reminds you to always trust your instincts and stand up for the people who truly matter. You always have the right to curate your inner circle and surround yourself with those who bring out the best in you. Please take care of yourself, set healthy boundaries, and never feel guilty for choosing your own well-being. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.